Thanks for tuning in to Leadership Level Up. I'm Brian Prairie, and I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Jeff Williamson. Our podcast aims to shine a spotlight on leaders within our community and provide a platform for them to describe their leadership journey and share the guiding principles that have helped them become great leaders. Today, we are joined by 𝘺𝘺𝘳 Chamber of Commerce President and CEO and Village of 𝘺𝘺𝘳 Marketing and Community Relations Director, Sarah Marion. She joins us and tells us her leadership story.
Welcome to Leadership Level Up podcast. I'm Jeff Williamson. This is my co-host, Brian Prairie. We're really excited today to have a professional and friend with us, Sarah Marion. And I'll tell you a little bit about her, and then we'll hear from her, which I'm really excited about. So Sarah is the president and CEO of the 𝘺𝘺𝘳 Chamber. She also serves as a marketing community relations director for the Village of 𝘺𝘺𝘳. Plenty of time there in your day, right? Her job titles sound fancy, and they are, but it simply means she's a servant leader who loves her community. She's a queen of connections, I love calling her that, and solution finder for problems. One of her happy places is having a great discussion over a cup of coffee with leaders and local business owners. Here we are.
Perfect fit. I did not know that.
Here we are. And however, the part of her job that's her favorite is mentoring young leaders, and I really want to hear more about that in a second. Sarah's a lifelong resident of 𝘺𝘺𝘳. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Corporate Communication from Northern Illinois University and was employed at Lazard Frères, an investment banking firm in Chicago, for 2 years. From there, she obtained her Master of Arts in Teaching and taught elementary school in 𝘺𝘺𝘳 School District for 6 years. Sarah is an active volunteer and board member at the Illinois Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, as well as the United Way of Kankakee and Iroquois County. She's a member of the 𝘺𝘺𝘳 Rotary Club and Kiwanis Club of Kankakee County. Gosh, Sarah, that's a lot of cool stuff. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
It's good to have you with us.
I'm happy to be here. I'm very excited to talk to you guys. Two of my favorite people and one of my favorite places, 𝘺𝘺𝑗𝑎ℎ. So this makes it easy.
The perfect intersection.
Yeah, yes. Definitely.
True.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to, Sarah has a very unique background.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to get into that.
Yeah. Let's hear about your journey, some of your work, progression, what leadership's meant to you, and what you try to relay then to others as a leader in the community.
Sure. I mean, I've been all over the place, clearly, as you've heard in my bio, but I am so grateful for all those experiences because if it weren't for those, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. That's one thing I tell a lot of my interns and kids that I mentor is like, listen, try everything. Don't just stick with one thing and think that's it for the rest of your life. Try so many things because where you land, you can pull all of those qualities and experiences there and you'll be even more successful. So, I mean, right out of college, no idea really what I wanted to do. I had no direction, and so all I knew is I wanted to live in Chicago, like many young college grads do. That's a cool, fancy place to live.
It is.
So, that was one of the first things I did was move to the city. I landed a job at the investment banking firm, and then I connected with one of the girls that worked there, and she was getting her Master of Art in Teaching. And that's something I always wanted to do as a little girl. I wanted to be a teacher, but I kind of ignored those little signs, and I thought, maybe that's not really what I want to do. So it came back in the forefront again by meeting her at this job I was at. And so I thought, why not? It's 2 years. I can do it at night and accomplish that goal. So while I'm working downtown, I'm getting that degree.
What attracted you to was it just like that kind of nagging thing as a kid, or there was something more that you wanted to?
My teachers were amazing growing up, and so they were just always in the back of my mind, an inspiration for me. I played school. It's funny because I look back.
When you weren't at school, you liked to play school, right?
Okay, so here's the weird thing. I look back, and there's some studies and things that say, hey, look back and see what you enjoyed as a child, right? So the things that I played as a kid was I played school, and then I played office.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like...
prophetic.
Strange.
Yes.
It was prophetic.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the other few things I played was church and So I don't have any thoughts of going into
Hey, never say never.
Ministry,
Yeah.
but you never know.
Never
It
say
could come
never.
up.
Yeah.
But so it's just kind of funny that it comes full circle as the things you like to do
And
as
it
a
sounds
kid.
like because those teachers were such an impression and such an impact on you, that connected with you in a more personal way to think, gosh, if I could have that in my life and give that to someone in my future years, how cool would that be, right?
It was amazing. First of all, this was the year, I think it was 2009, 8. The teacher market was saturated, so it was very hard to get a job. And so I was told that in order to get a job, I'd have to get my certification in special ed, which I was like, okay, this wasn't exactly what I was thinking, but I'm going to do it because I really want to go for this. So I got my certification and got my job, and I was placed for 2 years in the behavior classroom. So I had 7 little boys my first 2 years, and it was a great learning experience. They showed me things that I could have never learned otherwise. You know, it's an intimate setting with a few kids. And so it opened my eyes to a lot. And then I was able to move on and go into the general ed classroom, second grade, and then I went to first grade for 2 years. So
Talk about teaching patience.
it was good for me. It was good because then when I did go on to the general ed classrooms, those kiddos that had a little bit more
you
behavior
could tune
issues.
into that.
Yes.
That's cool.
It was like those spidey senses. Okay, something's going on. Like let's connect. And
You had a different filter to see that, it sounds like.
Those kids end up being my favorites because I could kind of work with them a little bit.
And it can be
different way.
sometimes too when you have students that do stretch you for whatever reason. You have that feeling, it's like, I think maybe I learned more about this process than my students did, which
100%.
is sometimes is not a bad thing.
Right.
Right.
And I think, so leadership never really came up until I wanted to do a little bit more in the realm of my teaching. And so I, coach track. So that's a little bit of a leadership.
Sure.
I would say it is a leadership
It
position.
is.
Yeah.
It
absolutely.
is.
I mean, I think a teacher is a leadership position.
It is. And I never thought of it that way because you're leading littles.
Yeah.
They need that too.
But I guess I have been doing a little more leadership work than I thought.
Yeah.
But I found out about this program called Girls on the Run when I was teaching, and I thought this would be really cool to bring to our community because it's about teaching young girls self-esteem, confidence.
Love it.
The things that little girls from the ages of 2nd grade to 4th grade need to start building.
Right.
We had nothing like it. So I applied, and part of getting the program to our community was to raise $5,000 to, I forget the wording of it, but to establish the program within your community. So I forged through, I fundraised, I did all the things, and I got the program to our school. And our first year, we had 80 girls sign up.
Nice.
So I was really
for a grassroots program. That's awesome.
And it was a big program in the suburbs, the cities, all that, but like not heard of.
Not smaller villages and communities.
There was not another Girls on the Run for probably 30, 40 miles from where we are. So it was one of my biggest accomplishments, I'd say, while I was in the teaching realm. And I'm happy to say that the program is still going on. The school has kind of shifted focus, and now they're doing their own version of it.
I see.
They've invited boys to the program as well.
Interesting.
Cool.
I was invited to be a running buddy at their 5K.
Yes.
So it culminates to where the kids are training for the race, learning skills, and then the final culmination activity is the 5K.
Oh, okay, cool.
So they're training for more than just the race.
Right.
So
I was invited to be a running buddy. I went, and I was blown away with hundreds of kids. So it's continued, and it was just like, wow. And the whole community was there. It was really a cool thing.
Right.
And I'm glad that people took the torch and continued it.
That's really neat.
And that's part of the joy of leadership is planting seeds. And even if we move to some future role or responsibility, to see that grow and take root and other people buy in and continue that has to be really exciting.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking to myself, it's like, how many lives is this helping? Like kids.
It's exponential.
Yeah. So
being a daughter dad, I know how important that is from a parent perspective to build up kids and young ladies in those critical years and have them to have a sense of their value and beauty.
100%.
That sounds exactly like the
And I think
focus.
You bring up a good point too, is I think, and looking back, I brought that program to our community because it's something I never got as a kid at that age.
Right,
you know, back in the 80s, I'm dating myself, but back in the 80s.
We were there.
Yeah, we were there too.
Early 90s, that was mental health, confidence, those things.
Yeah.
That was not
Just
a
to
thing.
have a voice, right?
Not a thing.
That would no.
You know, it was, how fast can you complete your times tables in a minute? And, what kids got to go to the gifted program and what kids didn't. And so those kinds of things really affected me and made me feel tiny.
Yeah, totally, right.
Yeah.
I totally get that because I thought I was bad at math my whole life.
100%.
And
Me too.
just to find out, I wasn't really geared towards it because I had a cousin who was just like a whiz.
Yeah.
I was like, and I felt, you're right, and I felt less.
Yeah.
Because
I'm below the mark here.
Yeah, but then once I got older, I was like, oh no. And also working with Jeff, like, oh no, I'm a thinker. I need to kind of like process these things a little bit more than somebody else. And I'm like, it wasn't that I was dumb. It was just that I took longer to kind of get these things in motion. But yeah, you're right. That wasn't really instilled on us at a young age.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And then when you realize, oh wait, I have strengths that the mathematicians don't have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
it was all just like that general basic knowledge that was pushed upon us.
I think that's such a great point that you recognize as a young adult. I wish I had this when I was a little girl.
Right.
So I want to be a part of having that happen in little girls' lives.
Absolutely.
And that's, to me, that's the essence of influence and impact.
Yeah.
Is to do those kind of things.
This new program that's coming to 𝘵𝘰𝘊,
the CEO program.
The CEO program, that's another one that I'm like, man, I wish they had that when I was a kid because it would have opened my eyes so much because I think kids, when we were growing up too, it was, what are you going to be when you grow up? Oh, teacher, doctor, nurse, business person. You didn't know anything that existed outside, not even like owning your own business. That was not something even talked about.
No.
Like, and how might we help you do that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, gosh, I think when they posted that program, I was like, can I sign up?
Yeah.
Because I still want to know what I'm going to be when I grow up.
I want to be 18 again and do some of that stuff. Yeah. But that's fantastic, though, that you help that happen.
Yeah.
And to see it now as you're a leader in our community with a voice who leads an organization in your community, to see that still vibrant and alive
It's fun.
for young kids is just incredible. So as a leader, when we think about those kinds of things, so maybe bring that more into present a little bit. I know you love mentoring young leaders and sometimes interns at your offices and those kind of things. But what are some ways that you mentor and try to motivate them?
Well, I think everybody's different. I've had probably 12 interns throughout the course of my role with the village and the chamber. And I'm very blessed that we have two amazing colleges.
This great
right in our
pool
county.
of talent.
It's awesome. Also blessed that we have we work closely with the high school.
Right.
The kids are, it's funny, a lot of them reach out to me. Hey, can I work with you?
Oh, wow.
So it's really cool.
And your
That
offices
they
are
know.
walking distance from the high school. That doesn't hurt.
Yeah. So, how do I work with them? My biggest thing is when I first get a student that I'm mentoring is just to sit down and ask them, what are you looking to get out of this? So that we have the same kind of expectation.
That's super important, and especially because at that age they might know it, but not be able to verbalize that.
Right.
Or even,
And I like to ask them what their skills are too, what their skill set is, because I want to utilize their skills. I don't want to make them run and get me coffee, which would be great, but I don't do it. I refrain.
That's kind of the don't do that to your interns list.
I refrain. But my biggest thing with interns is throwing them all in, having them do almost every single thing that I do day to day. Whether it be shooting a video for 𝘠𝘦𝘳𝘦 Matters or the Chamber Buzz, or making phone calls to members, or graphic design, any of it, because I want them to see how many different skills that I have. And I can't say I have those skills because I was born with them. It was because they needed to be done.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to throw them into accounting or any of that stuff because I leave that to the professional.
Totally.
But I like to give them a taste of every little thing, and I think it's important, especially them moving forward and being able to say, I got a full rounded experience by that internship, and maybe I'll inspire them to look into being, an executive in the Chamber of Commerce world. Because it's kind of a hidden
You don't just
occupation.
Automatically know that, as when we were 19, 20-year-olds in college saying, well, I'm majoring in this, and what I really like to do is become a chamber executive someday. I didn't know that. And now, the work of chambers of commerce and economic development groups, I'm like, I totally dig that stuff. Where was I? It was probably where was I rather than where were they.
Well, I think that's another good conversation to have, though, is I think what was the issue with chambers for so many years, our chamber is 55 years old, almost 57 years old now. I think they stayed, for lack of a better word, in their own little chamber.
Well, true.
And didn't get out enough into the community to educate people outside of just the membership what a chamber does. So that's something that I really work to do, is tell the chamber story.
You've helped bring that bridge between the two. And I think a lot of chambers are getting better at doing that in our area, certainly, and I'm guessing other places, but to help them see that connection. Because otherwise it can be like, well, those are 30, 40, 50-something-year-old people who are running businesses or own businesses, and I'm a kid. What can I do? Well, we know there's a ton they can learn and kind of ride shotgun with these folks like your interns do, to go, oh, that was pretty cool. I could see myself maybe doing that someday.
And being a business owner, I knew I had to join the chamber, but I didn't know why.
It's just obligatory.
I was just like, okay, I got to join. But then once I started to get to know Sarah and her work in the chamber, I'm like, you do a lot more than I really.
It adds a lot of value.
There's a whole lot of background that is because the face of the chamber is like, to help businesses and to help connect businesses, but there's it's such a general term. There's so much more that goes behind the scenes. And it's great that I've been able to work with you for so long to see you were kind of doing the the one-woman show, and now you're adding some people and then some interns, and that's exciting too, because there was plenty enough for you to do to have those people around you back when when you're doing it by yourself. But now you have the resources and able to do that, and also since you do have that leadership background, it's it seems to me from an outsider looking in, it seems it's no problem. Like you're just like, oh, okay, cool. Intern, you can do this. Kathleen, you can do that. You're able to kind of be able to unload some of those things so you can do the things that like connecting to the membership.
And that's something that I started getting practice with just working with volunteers. But initially, it's been a challenge to delegate certain things. Within this past year, we hired Kathleen back in June. My delegation muscle has gotten a lot stronger.
You're better at that.
We've talked about that before, because I was a solopreneur, and being able to kind of, once you start adding employees, that was really hard for me to kind of unravel all of the things that I did and follow that thread. And I don't actually really need to be doing this. How do I push this over?
But then it's also too, I heard in a podcast I listened to, because I'm a podcast junkie, about leadership and having employees, is not giving them a task list or to-do list. It's what are we collectively doing, and giving them the ability to make their own decisions and their own mistakes. Because that's how they're going to grow. Me giving them a list of what needs to be done and be like, okay, here, it's not always the case. I want them to formulate the map. I don't want to be making the map. So I think just empowering is the biggest thing, and not being and I hate to say this, but because I just kind of am pedaling back, is not just be the delegator.
Right.
But kind of work it more as a guide. Like here's our mission.
That's leadership.
Where are we going?
Right. And sometimes, like whether it's an intern or a new staff member, because you have a smaller team, I think you have the opportunity to say, here's 4 or 5 things that are coming up that we're working on for the next 6 months. Are there any of those that particularly are exciting to you?
Yeah.
Because we've talked about before, passion and strengths go together. So if they're fantastic at scheduling or planning, or like, hey, maybe that event that we do in the fall would be something you'd really, and they'd be, instead of like, well, I can, they can be like, oh, could I, right? And then they have that kind of joy and excitement about their work because you gave them some space to say, those couple of things, oh my gosh, I'd love to be a part of that.
I love that. I love that.
So you said your muscle has been strengthened. What was the biggest struggle into doing that? Like I said, being the one-woman show and then going into being able to delegate those things.
I think this sounds kind of weird, but I think it has a lot to do with just stepping back, like taking the time to give myself space, meditating on things, and knowing that if a mistake is made, who cares?
It's correctable in most cases, right?
We are not, pushing a rocket into outer space here. It's going to be all right.
Usually not life and death.
Right. And so I just like kind of, stepped back and said to myself, this is not
Right.
I had to make mistakes to learn.
Right.
I had to dig in. I had to Google stuff. I'm going to let my interns and I'm going to let, my employees do the same. Because maybe they find a better way to do it. Because if I'm telling them how to do it, they're not going to, that's the easy button.
I think we make mistakes too negative, where I just read a book, Creativity Inc. He talks about making mistakes early and often, and then you can get them out of the way.
They become guides.
And they become, but then exactly, those help you. Because if you didn't make those mistakes, you'd be making them now, which would be less advantageous to you. So make them, making them early is like, oh, okay, well, and also just being okay with that. Like that's because I know with a lot of our interns, they want to get it perfect every single time. Like, I go, no, when I say I want you to play with this and just kind of do your thing, do that. There's no wrong way, and we're not gonna, we're gonna go push something out that's bad.
Right.
So you do you. And I feel like a lot of interns feel that they have to be this perfect thing. I'm like, no.
Well, and I think we all were that when we were first starting out.
Totally
the perfectionist mindset, or thinking like, if I make a mistake, I'm going to get fired.
Right.
I'm going to get fired, or the client's not going to call me back, or
or I'm going to look stupid. It kind of goes into the ego thing of
Oh, totally.
And you make 2 great points there. When we get past fear of failure and we get past our own ego, gosh, it makes things so much easier.
Absolutely.
It really does. I was thinking about your reference earlier to the program with the young ladies at the school. And I went totally blank there on what that's called.
Girls on the Run.
Girls on the Run, thank you. So Girls on the Run. You had said something that I wondered if it's kind of the case now. So you said that was something I would have loved when I was a girl. And I wonder now, as a leader, you're saying, I want to be the kind of boss I wish I had back 15 years ago, whenever you started your career. Is there maybe some truth to that?
I think so. I do think so. There obviously were jobs where there was a lot of micromanaging, and that throughout, ever since I was young, I was like, I never want to work for somebody micromanage me, and I don't want to be a micromanager. Granted, back then I never thought I would be a leader. Like I was like, that's not me. I'm not that person.
Same.
And
we're very
but then we've known you in that way, so we're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, you can't.
When were you not being, because it's maybe more a longer term thing than you realized, even going back to teaching kids that needed special support and care in their educational journey, but you're like, I got this.
Yeah. But I think too that feeling of like, no, I'm not a leader. when I was young, my sisters and family would call me bossy. Oh, you're just so bossy.
Oh, right.
Because I had younger nieces
the
and
answer to
nephews.
that is like, you're not bossy, you just have leadership skills.
Yeah. I mean, I would corral my nieces and nephews
Yeah.
to like do things I wanted them to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the finesse,
Yeah.
clearly, at the time.
Yeah.
But, so, it was kind of a negative thing. Like, so I think as time went on, I pulled back.
Tempered that,
That's not a good thing to be bossy. And so it kind of stayed down below So to all those young girls that have been called bossy,
Right.
live with it and keep it growing.
Right.
It's like that is a part of you that can be refined. I'm hearing you say this, can be refined and shaped to be an incredible tool for good.
Yeah. I don't want to ever be considered bossy. So hopefully, if Kathleen's listening to this, she can attest that. Hopefully I'm not.
Maybe we need to interview her later. And
Part 2. Kathleen's side of the story.
So what's the real scoop here? So we talked some, and I loved it, about you investing in young people, you investing in interns and mentoring and how much you love that. What are some ways that you invest in you as a leader, that you grow yourself? Because if we're not growing as leaders, it's tough for us to be models of leadership to other people.
I am a junkie for all the things, podcasts, books, all of it, almost to the point where it's an obsession. So
there are worse obsessions, learning and growing. That one's okay.
I'd have to admit, there are days that I listen to 3 to 4 podcasts a day.
Well, we're hoping people will do that with ours too. But
what
it's a good start.
What are your top 3?
Yeah.
So
faves.
On my way here, I was listening to 𝘸𝘦𝘳𝘦. He's fantastic. He's got a really good story, and he hones in on asking the question of like, how am I showing up in the world? How am I serving?
Right.
And then he also told a story. Is like, and that really resonated with me. Is like, how do you overcome a fear of, let's say public speaking or walking into a room that may not be your people? Is think about that leader that you kind of admire and imitate them.
How would they enter the room, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
How do they stand? How do they shake somebody's hand? How do they speak? Just kind of be them. Till you get through.
Be them until you can be you.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, that's the best you showing up in the room.
100%. And I like that better than the term fake it till you make it.
Yeah, I don't like fake.
It's more you're emulating all the best possible, characteristics.
You're practicing those things that you want to be and become.
It's not faking it, it's practicing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. So that really resonated with me. And quite honestly, that has helped me through a lot of things that I've had to do that, I'm not super comfortable with, a little nervous. But and then the other thing, this isn't Ed, but think of nervousness as excited energy. Like flip the script.
Yep.
So I was a moderator for the Women United breakfast.
Right.
A lot of people in the room I've never moderated before.
You wanted it to go well.
Yeah. So at first I'm like, the heart, like getting a little nervous. And then I changed it around and I'm like, wait, this is excitement. I'm so excited.
Right.
Because when you take that word nervous out and change it with the word excited, it changes everything.
Does. It gives you space to feel what you're feeling.
Yeah.
But not have it be something that's an obstacle.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, what an opportunity.
Well, and it's that thing too. After you get those feelings, it's just taking that big belly breath in. And
I call it going up the high dive.
Yeah.
Brian's heard me say that.
Yeah.
You just got to go up the ladder and go up the high dive.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wow.
It's the breathing. It solves so many things.
I find myself in those situations. I'm not breathing.
Right.
So that's why I'm panicking.
You're just locked.
I'm locked.
Yeah.
Oxygen helps.
Keep it
3 big deep breaths in and out, and then you can realize where you're at, and
you're like, oh, this is actually really cool.
Be in the present moment.
Yes.
You guys asked me about some of the leaders. I mean, or podcasts. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But before we go into that, I would like to kind of maybe branch off. You talked about the things that make you nervous.
Yeah.
I kind of wondered, what are those things that make you nervous?
So for a long time, probably the first 2 years into this role, I've I'm celebrating my 6th anniversary here in June with the Chamber of Converge. I'm excited about that. But public speaking was something that, I just couldn't even handle myself.
To say the least, yeah.
Seeing you speak in front of many publics, I'm like, no, that's ridiculous.
No,
it shows that you can develop that skill by intention.
Yes.
And then embrace that excitement rather than going, oh no, I got to talk in front of people. I'm so nervous. You're so excited.
Yeah, excited.
That's such a good substitute.
I do like that too. And using that.
For sure. Please do.
It's true.
And you'll find just a shift in perspective.
I'm very nervous when because this is easy for me, but like talking in front of anybody, like 5 to 10 more people, like no.
Like, don't hand me the mic.
No, don't hand me the mic. But I just turn it into excitement. I just had to switch my brain to that.
Yeah, and when you think, what an opportunity.
Yeah. I used to hate dread public speaking.
Okay.
In fact, my first year in my job, so I got hired in June, our annual dinner was 2 weeks after I got hired.
Oh, yippee.
Wow.
I got to run this whole event. Yeah.
So I had to get up, new director. I could barely even like croak out. Like I'm shaking.
Did you have the quivery voice?
I did.
Yeah.
Ugh. No. Like I just never want to go back to that. But now I get that feeling of, yes, I'm excited. I get this opportunity to be in front of people. But then also the other side of it is, it's not about me. This is not. I'm delivering a message.
Right.
I'm here to serve, provide information.
Oh, that's good.
It's not me.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. One of the quotes that I keep on flip chart and upstairs at home says the audience is the hero.
Yes.
And that's something that helps me to think about is like, this event is not me. This event is about them.
Yeah.
And I just kind of get to be the conductor of the orchestra while I'm up here talking.
Yeah.
Right? But it's about making this a great experience for them.
Yeah. So, I mean.
Yeah.
Let's get back then to your favorite, other 2 favorites podcasts.
Gosh. There's a lot of them.
Too hard to whittle it down to.
I think so. Can we talk about book?
Absolutely.
Sure,
because sometimes the 2 are one. A good author will often have
Well, that's usually where I find some of my book recommendations and podcast recommendations.
Exactly.
Like, this guy
you should read this.
And then I start writing it down.
Absolutely.
So what's some good reads that you...
So 2 kind of books that I think are not the streamlined leadership quote unquote books.
Okay.
The first one was written years ago, The Greatest Salesman in the World.
I've heard that one.
The biggest takeaway for me with that one is taking action. You will, action gets rid of fear, it gets rid of procrastination. You just do it.
Well, you can spin your wheels a lot up here and then you're not doing it. You're just sitting there like, well, these 10,000 things can go wrong. Well,
right.
Good.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
what could go right?
Exactly.
Right.
What if
it works?
Yes.
And who cares if it doesn't? You move on.
Yeah.
It's not fatal, like we said earlier.
The world didn't end.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good to go.
So that's one.
The other one I'm reading currently is A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. I think
so. Yeah.
Okay, so I was inspired to read this one because, and this sounds stupid, but Oprah, I think she knows her stuff.
Yeah,
okay?
I would say so.
That's a good one. We can all agree on that, yeah.
So her copy of A New Earth is actually in a museum.
Wow.
And it's got so many highlights and dog ears and
it's just tattered.
Tattered beyond belief. And it's in a museum it's her top.
Oprah devoured it is what it sounds like.
So I thought, well, if that's the way Oprah guides her life, then I got to get on this. Yeah. So I'm currently reading it. It's a great book. I mean, my version is highlighted everywhere.
So you've added to my list because I haven't read either one of those yet.
Same.
The biggest takeaway I think that I've had so far is focusing on the now and being present. Okay. Because the past already happened. You're not there anymore. The future hasn't happened yet either. And he's got another book called The Power of Now. But it's truly just being in the moment.
That's cool. And do you feel like, and I read a lot of those as well, do you feel like it's so simple? It's so simple to say, but it's so hard to implement.
To live it.
Yeah, to live it. Like it's
definitely one of those books you got to read over and over. And I'm contemplating even doing the Audible version to absorb it in a different way.
Yeah.
okay.
I think that's important because sometimes you miss things.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you miss
The
things.
best of the best. I keep on a short list of books that I read every year, over and over
That's a good
again.
idea.
And that's the same idea there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting with some books, though, and I don't know if you guys have found this, is like you'll open up a book similar to like A New Earth, something that's pretty deep, and you open it and it doesn't resonate with you at all.
Yeah.
And then a year later, you may open it and you're like,
and it destroys you because you're like, okay, now I need this right now.
it's like God put it in your lap for the
Exactly.
reason
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
need.
Totally. I agree.
That's why I
Really
keep a
neat.
stack on a couple of places at home. It's like I put the new one on the bottom and I work my way to them. And sometimes it feels that way. It's like, oh, I needed that one now.
Because I guarantee you, if I read that book in my 20s,
It
Gonna go,
it just
whatever.
nothing.
Yeah.
But, you know, I turned 40 this year, so there's a lot of realizations that are going on.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be a party.
Yeah, like
Wow.
a lot of life
Yeah.
changes and things. So.
Very cool.
The Alchemist is a book that I read that I think you would like as well.
I
Read that
did
one?
read that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But thank you for bringing that up because I read it about a year and a half ago. I think that'd be a good one to bring back.
And that was when I also listened and read, and also I picked up different things in both versions of it because it was another one that when I started reading it, I didn't really kind of realize until the end, like, oh, this is about your journey and your leadership, and whether it's leadership or whatever, but like it's also about being present and beautifully story and a beautifully kind of like. Even if you don't get the message, like it's just a really good story. But like, there's so much. It's like saturated.
A lot more there.
It's like,
sounds
it's
like.
saturated with message, and it's one of my favorites to go to.
I'm gonna have to pull that out.
I'm just feeling like I need something, and that's usually one of the ones I go to. Yeah.
Cool. Well, maybe one more question, and then we'll kind of land the plane.
Yeah.
We talked some about the nerves and the excitement of when you were doing some new and different things as a new director. So, kind of continuing in that vein, what would you say is one of the biggest leadership risks you have taken to this point?
I mean, I don't know if it's a leadership risk or just a personal.
Could just be a risk.
And I don't even know if this is a risk, but this sticks out to me. And I think it's very important, especially for young leaders and just young people in general. Asking for what you need. So
That's good.
I mean, I finally got to the point after 5 years that I said, I need help. Like, I can't do this alone anymore.
Right.
If you want this organization to grow and be better, I can't do it alone.
Right.
And it's going to stay the same.
Right.
So I came up with a proposal of what I needed and where my weak spots are. And what, so I proposed to the board, that I need help.
Yeah.
On another note, I, did my research on salary and I asked for a raise because it's just important to be your own advocate, especially in organizations that, you answer to a board of directors and they're volunteers. I do not fault because I sit on a board and my mind isn't always on, okay, is it time for a raise for them or do they need an assistant?
It's just about the agenda, moving forward.
Right.
And no matter even if you are answering to a boss or, a more non-traditional board of directors, I think it's very important to speak up on what you need to be better. So I don't know if that's a risk. It's more of a...
No, I think so, yeah.
It may seem like it to you because you're like, oh my gosh, like what do they say? What,
Right.
What do they say no? And I mean, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, kind of who cares if they say no? Or, because knowing you did all the homework.
Yeah.
You looked at you looked at the salary. You looked at like what you needed, and you were present. You were reflected on this is what I need.
Yeah.
And I think, I think if all of us did that a little bit more, it would kind of we would be centered and be able to like kind of be able to be in the present and look towards the future and just kind of be like, okay, I want to work towards these things.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure the board was like, oh, okay.
You made it easy for them to say yes.
Made it easier, like once you kind of lay it out in front of them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're exactly right, is, doing the research, not just expecting, well, I've worked here for 2 years, I deserve this.
Yeah.
That's not what that means.
Not as persuasive.
No,
That's not what that means. You gotta lay it out there on like all the things. I mean, especially when asking for a raise too. The best advice I had was list all the things that you've accomplished within the time frame, and then list all the things that you plan on accomplishing for the organization as well.
I don't know about you, but that for us, when we look back at those things at Pathfinder, it's kind of affirming. You're like, oh wow, because you kind of get stuck in like, okay, you're moving on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing.
You
and
can
it's like,
forget
oh, wait, let's celebrate these. Let's celebrate all the things.
Yeah,
and
we've done a lot.
We've done a lot. Yeah, and it's cool that you are able to do that as well.
And that's a goal I always have, is like, all right, I got to celebrate the little things. I for so many times I'll like start like what I'm proud of list, and then I forget to add to them. So I want to be more diligent of, those little wins and the things along the way, because on the days that you do get down on yourself or feel like, what am I doing?
Go look at your list.
Look at your list.
Yeah, I found some old lists before, and I was like, oh man,
dang,
this is really cool that I did this. And I'm like, why am I still not making these lists? Like, I should really just write down like, five every couple weeks or something like that, just to kind of like reaffirm that, because it is easy to just, because I know I get in the stuck and just like, okay, we got this thing done, what's the next thing? And just kind of keep processing those things. And then all of a sudden a year goes by and you're like, okay, and we're just looking at the next thing for next year. Like, whoa, pump the brakes.
Let's pause and celebrate.
Celebrate.
Absolutely.
I definitely, and conversations with you and with Jeff, I know we've talked about that a lot. Is taking those moments to just kind of, the breathing I think is a very poignant thing. It's just like, take that moment to breathe and just kind of and go woohoo, because like, hey, I did these things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For sure.
Man, this has been good. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's a joy to have you learn about your leadership journey, and we'll have many other terrific guests like you on the Leadership Level Up podcast in the days ahead.
I was so happy to be here. It was fun, and I hope you guys get a lot of listeners.
We hope so too.
We'll be promoting it for you. And so thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening, and join us next week for another episode of the Leadership Level Up podcast.